Righty. So I'm going to introduce our Toastmaster for the day. Tonight's meeting is focusing on those critical once in a lifetime speeches, presentations. Have you ever had to give one of those? I have. Our Toastmaster for tonight has twice. He might just have some insight to share on these types of talks, telling what he knows about the most important speech of your life. Please help me welcome Kyle Hall. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you, ME. And welcome, members of Laugh Lab. And yes, I don't think we have any guests yet, but we had a couple sign up. They may show up. We're going to be talking about the most important speech of your life. This was thrown at me in November of 2010. I got a phone call from my father. He said he'd taken my mother to the emergency room. They thought she might have cancer. And anyway, I raced from where I was living on Orcas Island down to Sequim. I went to the hospital, to the emergency room, so many hours later. And I was there when the doctor came in to deliver the final prognosis. My mother had stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Ooh.
And she had a choice. She could take the chemotherapy and be miserable and extend her life for a little while, or not take the chemotherapy and die sooner. And she decided she was not going to take the chemotherapy. She did declare right then and there that her one goal was to make sure, it was November, she wanted to make sure she lived to January, so my father could use her as a discount, as a deduction on his taxes. That's the way my mother thought. Also, she had lost most of her hair at that point, not from any medicine, just because it runs in her family. I'm losing some of mine. And she said, well, if I had the chemo, I wouldn't have to worry about the side effects. She had a pretty good sense of humor. But she told me then and there that night, she says, I want you to do my eulogy. I had never thought about delivering my mother's eulogy. It just was not something that I had thought about. I thought my mother's, everyone figured my dad would die before my mother. Men tend to die before women when they're the same age, but he was still alive and going strong, and she was going to die in a few months, and suddenly I was faced with the most important speech I was ever going to give. How do you eulogize your own mother? And the only thing I can be grateful for, the two things I can be grateful for, is I have years of Toastmasters experience. Otherwise, I might have just frozen. And the other is I had months to prepare. Maybe not 6 months, but I had a month or 2 or 3 to prepare. It wasn't like she died in a car accident and I had no time. And I had time to talk to my mother and find out things she wanted me to talk about in her eulogy. But it was the most important topic, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this adventure of preparing my mother's eulogy while we go through it. But let's move on. Our timer tonight is Mary Morrison. Mary, would you show us your timing flags? And would you raise your virtual hand so you stay in the top left corner of everyone's screen?
I will do all of the above in due time. Let's see. For timing, for reaching your minimum, which for some people, if you've got we have 4 different timings tonight. We have 2 to 3 minute evaluations, 3 to 4 minute speeches, 6 to 8 minute speeches, 16 to 18-minute speeches and 8 to 10 evaluations. That's 5 different timings at your minimum. So at 3, 6, 8, 16, or 2, you will see this green background show up. When you've reached your mid amount, getting towards the end of your speech, so that would be for evaluators 2.5, for a 3-minute speech, 3 to 4 minute speech, 3.5, for a 6-minute speech, 7 minutes, for a, let's see, where am I? For a 16-minute speech at 17 minutes, you'll see that. For the round robin evaluator for Karen at 9 minutes, you'll see it. Did I leave anyone out? 3 to 4 minute speech, you'll see it at 3.5 minutes. Sorry, it's the yellow. Got ahead of myself, didn't I? I've only been doing this for 25 years. Don't worry, I'll get it. I'll get it soon. And then when you have reached your final time, which is the one you really want to pay attention to. So if you are an evaluator at 3 minutes, you'll have 30 seconds to wrap it up. If you are speaking for 3 to 4 minutes, at 4 minutes, you'll see this, and you'll have 30 seconds to wrap up. If you are speaking for 6 to 8 minutes, you'll see this at 8 minutes with 30 seconds to wrap up. For Karen, for evaluating the round robin, at 10 minutes, you'll see this with 30 seconds. And for Helen, your 16 to 18 minute speech, you'll see this at 18 minutes with 30 seconds to wrap up. No chimes or any other nagging tonight. That red will just stay there until you stop talking. And I will raise my hand and keep it raised. Hopefully it won't lower it. So I'll just do that. There you go. Any questions?
Thank you, Mary. Our first speaker, there is a change to the agenda in case you printed out the agenda or looked at it. Mary Morrison is not speaking tonight. She is just being timer. Thank you, Mary. So our first speaker tonight is Cynthia Sanderson. Now, Cynthia is working from the social speeches exercise, which is a level 3 speech in her path. And it's 3 to 4 minutes. Cynthia has a best friend and mentor named Paige. And she's emceeing Paige's 75th birthday celebration. Like any good master of ceremonies, Cynthia wants to prepare some remarks to offer at the open mic portion of the meeting, of the celebration, offering us to Paige on her 75th birthday. Please help me welcome Cynthia Sanderson. You're muted. We can't hear you. Still cannot hear you. And Zoom does not say you're muted, but we cannot hear you. So your computer mic is
Can you
not
hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I unplugged and replugged. Sometimes just unplugging works.
Please help me welcome Cynthia Sanderson.
Hey, do-over. I first met Paige in 2002 when she owned a scrapbook store here in Olympia. At the time, I was an avid scrapbooker, and I loved the vibe of her store. We became instant friends. Her father, who frequently visited the store to get away from her mother because her mother was suffering from some type of Alzheimer's and he was the caretaker, would often visit, and I would sit and chat with him. He called me his honorary granddaughter. And so since he was my grandfather, it made sense that Paige adopted me as her daughter. I think the reason that I got along so well with him mostly was because I talked to him and the other shoppers ignored him. But Paige is like that. She tends to adopt people. She has lots of honorary daughters and sons and granddaughters, including my granddaughter and my daughter as her granddaughter. She is friendly, outgoing, and a networker. As I look around the room today, I see the faces of over 60 people present. I can see that it is a testament to her nature. We are all part of Paige's tribe. She collects family like other people collect books. Can't have just one. Being part of Paige's tribe is not an easy task. Her friends get voluntold a lot of things, what she's passionate about, which includes Zonta. I've been a member of Zonta for the past 3 to 4 years, a lot because she nagged me and nagged me and nagged me to join until I just gave in and joined. The only thing that gets me out of Zonta meetings is Toastmaster meetings. So I'm skipping one tonight. But I digress. Paige is a lifelong learner. Look at how at the age of 70 she decided to study tarot. Now she reads for clients all over the world. She goes to tarot conventions even. She's a very generous and giving person. She will give you the shirt off her back if she thinks you need it. Paige, thank you for your mentorship, your friendship, and for being another mother to me. Here's to Paige and her 75 years. May there be another at least 25. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you very much. Oh, let me cancel that spotlight. Excellent. If you'd like to, you can send Cynthia a note in the chat. When my mother asked me to do her eulogy, I spent a couple of days not in a fog, in confusion. And ultimately, the solution was simple, but it took me a while to get there. You see, while I loved my mother, I didn't always like her. She had some rough edges. There were parts of me that she didn't like, and she let me know about that. And for a while, for a couple of days there, I was trying to work through how I was going to give a eulogy for my mother while and deal with all my feelings about her. And then finally my Toastmasters training kicked in, and I remembered, oh, the presentation's not about me, it's about the audience. It's always about the audience. It's not about me. I'm just the vehicle for the presentation. Oh, so this eulogy is not an opportunity for me to work out my personal issues with my mom in front of a crowd. It was an opportunity for me to get a crowd who already knew my mother to remember some of the best or funniest aspects of her, the things that she wanted them to remember, the things she wanted them to know, and the things I thought they should know. And when I finally got through that fog and realized, oh, it's not about me. Yeah, this might be one of the most important speeches I deliver in my life, but it's not about me. It's about the audience. It helped me move past that. So our second speaker tonight is Joel Pushparaj. Madam Timer, this is 6 to 8 minutes. Joel has been an avid Toastmaster for about a decade, and he works in the telecom industry. He has two kids, ages 10 and 7, and a dog that keeps him kind of busy. Telling us how the best things in life are rescued, please help me welcome Joel Pushparaj.
And thanks, Kyle, for the wonderful introduction, and also for like walking us through how prepared your eulogy in such in such time. I'm really curious to hear about it. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be in another Toastmasters meeting with you all. My daughter this summer, um, asked me a question that when do we get an animal, or like when do we get a dog? Even prior to that, they have been a little bit talking about it, and I had excuses. You guys go to school, we work 9 to 5. What will the dog do? In the house, it'll basically do nothing. So plus, we need to be around it. We have to spend time with it. It's not like picking a toy from the toy store. You go to the toy store, you pick a toy, and then it's forgotten under your bed until the next time you like it. Animals are a little different. And so my kids understood that, and they kind of, forgot about it until one of their friends got a pet this summer, and then they became pretty insistent. When are we getting a dog? We always come. I always come up with an excuse, and funnily enough, one afternoon they were pretty persistent. They were like, "We're not going to home until we get a dog." Then I tell them, "Well, it's not like going to a to Walmart and picking up a dog that we want to do. It takes time and preparation, and what the dog needs, how much space it needs, and is it friendly with kids? It needs some adjustment time." And they were like, "Yeah, you always have excuses." Even prior to that, the local humane society tends to announce pets for adoption through their social media channels, through the newspaper. Um, being a nonprofit association, they get free airtime on the radio and TV. Uh, it did pass my mind that yes, there is a couple of puppies and dogs that we could adopt. But again, the biggest thing was we as a family don't have much time for it. But mm, you know, late this summer, they became pretty persistent. And I was like, you know what, since you guys are persistent, we'll go put our name to the Humane Society or to the local, to the local shelter. Um, I hear from friends that the society usually vets the family just to make sure that they know whom you're getting with. They just do a bit of a background check. Sometimes it's intense, sometimes it's not intense. It's good they do that. So the sometimes the animals need some time, or maybe if there's a pet in the house, will it adjust to it? If there's kids in the house, are they okay with kids? Things like that. So we went one day, we put in my name, my address, this is where I live, this is who we are. We don't have any other big pets in the house. How much time do we have for the dog? Yeah, we work 9 to 5, but I can make time in between my work hours to take the dog for a walk and things like that. Strangely enough, within like I would say 20 minutes, we got qualified to adopt a pet, and my kids got excited. They're like, "Yeah, let's go see what's available." And I was like, "Even we may not still be ready." They were like, "You just see what's there. You can always come back." Like, sure, let's walk around the yard, and we saw a couple of pets. Um, in a shelter, most of the dogs are either rescued or they were like given away by their owner, either that they're moving out of town or situation change. So different dogs have different behaviors. Some of them, bark at you when you see them. Some of them come and lay at your lap. Some of them come and wag their tail. And this particular dog, apparently, I think it licked my kids in their face. And they're like, it's a 3-year-old dog, and medium-sized mixed breed. We call them the Yukon Special. They don't need to walk around with mittens or snowsuits or things like that. They can sit in the snow, or they can sit in the sand, jump in the cold water. And my kids were like, sure, we'll take him and go. And I'm like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, we'll take him and go. The society did tell us that this pet had lived the longest there for some reason. Either, well, like for various reasons, it's been the longest. So just kind of, you need to watch that a little bit. Um, we're like, I mean, yeah, we'll take it and go. The kids are on holidays. Yes, they're starting school soon. But their holidays, they can look after it. And yes, we can spend time taking it for walks and things like that. The paperwork went smoothly. The dog, his name is Groot. He seemed to trot along well. We held his leash. He didn't have any problems. Me holding the leash. He had no problems with the kid standing next to it. So we do the paperwork. We get its tray, crate, things like that, things that the animal is attached to in the shelter. And we walk to the vehicle. It comes and trots along like, nothing even happens. No signs of barking, no signs of leash pulling, no yanking, no hesitation. I open the car door, it like hops into it, and I'm like, does the dog know it's going to a different place? Yeah, it totally knows it's going to a different place. It's lived, it's coming from a different place, it goes to a different place, so it's all fine. And then the shelter staff are a little sad that they have to let it go, but they're happy, mixed emotions. The dog has lived the longest there, so they know it really well. The other thing is that they're sad that it has to go. And then other time they're happy that yes, it finally found a house, and they're like, hope this is his final house. It did go and come back twice for different reasons. So yeah, they were a little bit like questioning on that. Yes, we bought the dog home. Um, and little did we know that yes, they had said that the dog has separation anxiety. That's pretty normal from an animal that grew up in a house and then goes to a shelter and then back and forth. Yes, it has that. It has a bit of a hesitation towards your mailman, the people on bikes, things like that. People with beard. I mean, it didn't show any like sign of hesitation to me. So I'm like, okay, fine, it should be good. We bring it home. The kids like it. Long story short, yes, we did go through a phase of separation anxiety. I had to ask work that I could work from home, so the dogs and I sit with the dogs, spend time with it. Um, it was a learning phase for us as a family. But the good news in all of it is taking the dogs for a walk has kept me active. You know, it's a pretty active dog. So initially, yes, it used to pull on its leash a lot. New house, it would try to run out. It did run out twice. It came back. So all those good things. Um, like what I intend to say is this dog, like we thought we would change his life. It ultimately ended up changing us. I've become more calm at home. My wife told me, so you speak more calm, or what happened? I'm like, just don't want to get the dog agitated. So I've become a more calm person. Interesting enough, bringing up dogs and kids are not different. So with my daughter turning 7 in few days, I realize a lot of those initial things we do to a child, such as what it should eat, what it should not eat, helps with the dog. Um, it's been about 3 months. We've come in a long way. The dog stays at the house about 3 to 4 hours by itself. There is no sign of separation anxiety. It sleeps well, and like I would say, the best thing in life is rescued. I'm glad that I don't have to go through a long story of finding a pet, but did manage to find a pet that really fits into our house well. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Now, take a moment if you wish to write a note to Joel. And while you do that, I'm going to tell you my mother and my father knew each other in elementary school. And neither of them dated anybody in high school. My dad went off to the Air Force and would write to my mother while he was in the Air Force, and neither of them dated anybody. He didn't date anybody while he was in the Air Force, and she didn't date anybody while she was at home. And he came back from the Air Force, and he wanted to ask my mother out. So he came over to the house and he knocked on the door and she answered the door and he said, "Hi, I'm going to a movie. You can come if you want." That's my father, the romantic. And that was one of my mother's favorite stories. And when I asked my mother, "What do you want me to talk about your eulogy?" She's, "Oh, you're going to tell that story." Well, I knew that story. And what else did she want me to talk about? Well, she wanted me to mention all the quilts she made for Project Linus. She wanted to mention all the fun she had golfing with her women's golf club here in Squim, uh, other stories. So I spent time with my mother trying to extract some of the things she wanted people to know about her. And this leads me, I think, to the two pieces of advice. The first of two pieces of advice that I'm going to give tonight. Toastmasters suggests that as Toastmasters, we start building story files for ourselves. Well, if you think you're going to have to deliver a once-in-a-lifetime speech like a eulogy, a wedding toast, a retirement speech, a tribute of some sort, start gathering stories for those people. And it's kind of hard. I sat down with my dad and it's like, and my dad, by the time I moved here to Squim, my dad had dementia. But I would sit down with him and say, "Hey, Dad, tell me about your time in the Air Force." He could remember that, and he'd just talk. And he'd just tell a story. "Tell me about your time in high school." And he'd tell me about all the sports stuff he did and his big catch and the time somebody clipped him and knocked him out in playing football. And, he might not have been able to remember what he had for breakfast and what he did yesterday, but he could remember some of the things he did when he was on the Squim City Council and some of the things he helped provide the town. So I would just poke him and ask these things. And while he wasn't around, I would take notes because I knew someday I would be doing a eulogy for my dad. So I suggest we think about these things too. You don't have to tell your relatives, "Hey, I'm gathering information for your eulogy." But start taking notes, start keeping a story file on the people who are important to you. I can tell you when David Loudis and Mary Morrison conspired to try to get TI to give me the presidential citation, which I received in August, they had to drag my history out of me. They had to nag me and pester me to drag my history out of me so that they had the material they needed. Let's move on to our third speaker, Emmy Bartholomew. She is doing social speeches from the Persuasive Influence Path, Level 3, 3 to 4 minutes, Madam Timer. Emmy says, "There are 3 things I admire most." Yes, she can narrow it down to 3 things. There are more things to admire about her favorite Toastmaster, but these things are what stand out most. And they, in turn, can all be expressed in one word: kindness. Please welcome Emmy as she describes the 3 things I admire most. Emmy Bartholomew.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Yes, there are 3 things that I admire most about this Toastmaster. But on the way to getting to those 3 things, I'd like you to think about, what do you consider a good Toastmaster? What makes a good Toastmaster? Well, they have to be a good speaker, right? That stands to reason. Well, do you suppose 3rd place internationally is good enough? I think so. Okay, we'll take that. They also should be a good evaluator. Well, do you think developing a workshop on better evaluating qualifies? Yeah, I think so. Then there's leadership. They have to be a good leader. Well, do you think helping the district redistrict itself and change its boundaries, you think that's leadership? Yeah, I think I do too. Yeah. Well, I think you all know who I'm talking about. Kyle's shaking his head. Kyle Hall is an amazing Toastmaster. And I know this because I'm in his home club. And I'm in this club. But I also know from experience. You see, the three things that I admire most about Kyle as a Toastmaster are not those things. What I admire most is his kindness. If you call Kyle on the phone, he answers the phone and the first thing he says is, "What can I do for you?" How did he know? Yeah, there is something I can do for me. The next thing I admire about Kyle is how supportive he is. Let's say that I'm telling Kyle something about something that's going on in my speeches or in my life or whatever, and he'll say, "May I make a suggestion?" Yeah, go ahead, suggest away. I'm listening. And he always has the best suggestions, but he doesn't try to push them on you. He says, "May I make a suggestion?" Just a minute, I'm going to fix my video here a minute. For some reason, it gets fuzzy. The other thing I admire about Kyle is how his leadership style. He leads from behind. He doesn't tell you what you need to do. He makes suggestions, but he also gives you the tools that you need in order to do it. He makes sure that you have what you need in order to accomplish something, and then he lets you do it. Awesome. Those are the three things that I admire most about Kyle Hall. So I would like you all, we're going to assume that you have something to toast with. So raise your glasses to Toastmaster Extraordinaire, Kyle Hall. Yeah, Kyle. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, M.E. I did not know who you were going to talk about, just so you all know that. Thank you. I'm very flattered. So please take a moment to write a comment to M.E. And by the way, I need to tell you all, I am having a moment of technical difficulty. My chat, I can look at anything anyone says me, but my keyboard is not working. So I cannot reply. I do not know what's going on. I was typing on this computer earlier today without problem. So I mentioned that my mother tasked me to give her eulogy. And I knew I had a couple of months. And as it turns out, I had until mid-February. She died on February 20th. Well, I was a member of an advance club. And it's funny that Emmy should have called me Toastmasters Extraordinaires, because that was a Toastmaster Extraordinaire, because that was the number of the club. That was the name of the club, Toastmasters Extraordinaires. It was an advance club over in District 2. And I called them and I said, I need to practice a speech. Not sure how long it's going to be, 25, 30 minutes long. It's a eulogy, it's a real life speech. I need to practice it. And they made the time. They fit me in. I think it was the January meeting, and I could go. I took what I had and I went in and I presented it, and I got feedback from people who have done this kind of thing before. And it helped. It helped. They helped me make it better. It helped me feel like I was more ready so that when the time came, I was ready. So if we have the time, if we have the chance, practice it. These are real life, important, critical speeches. Practice them. That's my second piece of advice. Story file, find time to practice. And speaking of practicing real life speeches, our fourth speaker today is Helen Herr. And she's working from Pathways Presentation Mastery, Level 5, Prepare to Speak Professionally. This is a 16 to 18 minute talk. Helen is going to practice a real life speech with us tonight. She's going to be giving a TED Talk style speech. It's not a TED Talk, but it's a TED Talk style speech, which she'll be presenting in front of a group of Chinese marketing and business professionals. So for the duration of this speech, you are not Toastmasters, you are Chinese marketing and business professionals. Look at her presentation from that point of view. Here's her intro for that event. In today's challenging economic climate, marketers are struggling to find new customers and drive revenue. This is a pressing issue that demands innovative solutions. Helen, a veteran marketer with extensive experience at Fortune 500 companies, and now a successful entrepreneur, has faced this challenge head on. By embracing the principles of infinite marketing, she has doubled her client base and increased her revenue this year. Helen is going to be talking about infinite marketing. By applying the insights she'll share tonight, we can enhance our customer engagement, boost sales, and achieve more sustainable growth. Sharing with us some of what she's learned about infinite marketing, please help me welcome Helen Herr.
Toastmasters. Have you ever passionately served your client and only to be met with indifference? 2 months ago, I conducted a business communication training for a pharmaceutical company. When I watched my trainees walking into the meeting rooms with laptops, this is going to be a challenge, I told myself. During training, I tried all out of my motivational strategies and trying to grab their attention, but I found their attention are drifting between me and their screens. Finally, I said, okay, let's do a role play. This is the only life coaching chance through role playing today, and we only have one spot. Whoever raises their hand first, get that spot. Wow, the room suddenly became lively. But in one corner of the room, there will be a confused voice. Huh? Only one spot? The room bursts into laughter. It is not easy to do such training, right? After that long day, I feel really exhausted, and I decided to go to spa to relax. And my friend Tina, who owns that spa, and grabbed me to the corner of the room and say, hey, Helen, we got a new customer with us today. His name is Leo, and he got some trouble with his employee. His employee seems unproductive, and his sales is declining, and he's keep complaining. Can you help to talk with him? I said yes. So I met Leo, who is a retail store manager, who is tall, 1.8 meter, and handsome. But right now, his handsome face was crowded with wind, and he still keep complaining. You know what? My staff was so incompetent. I told them to schedule the shift. I want the best salespeople on the same day so we can boost sales, but I always keeping those incompetent ones pop me up. How can they be such unqualified for this job? He vented for 10 minutes, and I was really struggling to keep up. I forced myself to have a smile and say, "Hey, Leo, we are here to relax, right? Why don't we try something light?" So I took a set of photo cards and invited him to draw 3 cards to my 3 questions. What are you feeling right now? What do you really need? What is your dream? And he picked up 3 cards. Resilience, representing his feeling. Teamwork, representing his needs. And developing others, representing his dreams. I asked him, "Leo, have you found any new insights?" Wow, that's interesting. What I need is teamwork. But that makes sense. I could not turn things around alone and achieve my sales target. But how? I handed him another card representing my dream, which said, developing others. His eyes lit up. Oh, that's true. My previous staff, Amy, left us 2 months ago. He went for another luxury branded store and got a promotion. I really feel happy. He learned a lot when working with me. I smiled at him and say, "Leo, now you got a key to achieve your teamwork." He stopped, and after a long pause, he said, "Wow, I guess you're right. I know how to start my team conversation now." And I smiled at him and say, "Leo, this is your first smile I see tonight. It looks even better." Later that night, when I get back home, I start my reflection. Why the same topic of communication works so dull in my corporate training during daytimes and make Leo so excited in the nighttime? The first session was a mandatory by corporate, and the second was happen naturally. But who said the personal learning could only happen in working time and not in personal time? I suddenly remember 2 years ago, I read a book called Infinite Game, written by a leadership expert, Simon Sinek, in which he said, when you are playing a finite game, you must have an infinite game mindset. What's the finite game? It means the market is finite with only limited opportunities. Your business opportunity is so limited, so if others win, you lose. Take my training business, for example, I can only do training with corporate, and if corporate training budget shrinks, I'm done. But what's the infinite game mindset? It means you have unlimited opportunity to develop your business. You can gain your business in every place, in every time with anyone in need. Every setting is my playground. I can explore my limitless opportunities. My mindset opened up, and in the later 2 months, I collaborate with brands who targeting at business professionals. So I held cross-cultural communication seminars in that spa store, and also high impactful communication workshops in a luxury suit store. And guess what happened? After those events, more customers came, the store traffic increased, their business increased, and I get more training business. So you see, when I shift my mindset from finite to infinite, I have more flexible and diverse marketing strategies, which lead to my initial business success. And you might ask, how can your strategy be more useful to you? I want to share 3 tips. The first, fully understand your customer needs. And second, meet where they are. And lastly, convey your brand vision. First thing first, fully understand your customer needs. key principle of infinite marketing is to get a thorough understanding of your customer needs, even when they are not expressed, because your customer don't always know what their real needs. They may often get their emotions or whatever, so they cannot see that. But it is your greatest value to help them discover their unseen needs. It's only through the clear understanding of their hidden needs that you'll be able to help them and provide your products and services. In my interactions with Leo, he first came up with so angry and complaining about his employees. So with what his needs? Superficially, you might think, oh, his needs is to seeking for emotion comfort. But would that work? Does it really help to turn around his business and rejuvenate his teams? And when he gets stuck in his anxiety, he lost the sight of seeing his real needs. And through this photo card coaching, his real needs of teamwork revealed. And he got to realize that he cannot really achieve his he cannot really turn things along by himself. He has to rely on the teamwork to achieve his sales target. And this is his real needs. His complaining is only his helpless way of expressing his needs, but not his real needs. But it is through by seeing these real needs that make him wake up and be able to find his solutions. And second point, meet them where they are. In finite marketing, we always have some conventional way of doing marketing. Say, hey, we make customer relationships through a fixed set of channels. We build relationships through entertaining clients. But infinite marketing gives you more opportunities to build even deeper relationships with your clients. Take Leon's example again. When we met in Spar, it actually made me easier to connect with him and help him to explore his needs, because Spar is more relaxed and more pressure-free environment, right? He went to Spar to relax his body and mind. And when his body relaxed, he would be more open-minded and ready to make a change. There is an old Chinese saying, if you cannot move the mountain, go to the mountain. So if you cannot find marketing opportunity using conventional ways, why not exploring new ways by meeting them where they are? One day, my friend Alicia, who was the general manager of a luxurious suit brand, called me. Helen, the economic situation is too bad. Many of our customers are downgrading their consumption this year. They rather choose not to buy that many suits or even not to buy high-end suits. Our sales has been declining. Can you help us to check it out? I went to their store and I started to search the deeper needs of their customer. And one customer, the young professional said, oh, I'm going to defend my MBA thesis and I want to look good so I can inspire the confidence in my judging panels. And another corporate executive said, I'm going to report my business performance to my CEO. I have to impress him and let him know my personal value. And the other entrepreneur said, oh, I'm going to pitch a project to my investors. I have to present my strengths so I can secure his investments. Have you seen these people's deeper needs? Besides, they want to dress better to add their appearance. They also want to make an bigger impact when they are presenting their stuff with their boss, with their investors and other key stakeholders. And then later, Alicia and I developed a workshop called strengthen your leadership presence. And guess what? All of the customer came not only by themselves, but they also bring their colleagues. And during the session, they keep asking me their questions and kind of stimulating me of more thinking, which I never had in corporate training. And I feel, wow. And after these events, their store got more traffic. And Alicia happily shared her screenshots of their sales. And let me see, their weekly sales has been increased 20% for months and successfully exceeding their target for the first time this year. Now we know how we can better and deeper understand our customers and meet where they are. And finally, let's talk about how we can strengthen our connections with our brand in a more sustainable way. The last point is convey your brand vision. The founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, said, the market is so noisy and people will not be able to remember your brand. Marketing is about convey your brand vision. So Apple never said they sell product, but make a real difference to this world. And Nike never sells running shoes, but paying their respect to the spirit of great athletes. It is only by conveying those brand mission statements can they connect to consumers' hearts and make their brand names memorable. Lei Jun, the founder of Xiaomi, which is a very reputable Chinese high-tech company, and he is also regarded one of the best marketeer in China. On April 27th, 2024, at the launch of Xiaomi's electric car, after Lei Jun's speech, over 50,000 electric cars were sold in 27 minutes. Wow. Do you think he's selling cars? No. Let's listen to some of his quotes. He said, I will give my last entrepreneur try during my lifetime to Xiaomi, and it's only persist doing the difficult but right things can we go further. It is through this personal mission can consumer feel his real heart and be able to like him and ultimately achieve the sales success. It is because it is only by using heart can you connect to other people's hearts. And finally, you may ask, Helen, what is your mission? As a speaker for this marketing forum, my mission is to empower marketeers to explore infinite possibilities by embracing those infinite marketing strategies. And as a communication coach, I empower business leaders to improve their communication effectiveness so they can unleash their personal potentials. And you may also ask, Helen, how did you do that? And let me share with you my mission speech at Toastmasters International Convention by watching the screen. Sorry, let me find.
Office of International Director from Region 14, Distinguished Toastmaster Helen Hua.
There it is.
Go. In Chinese, it means let's go. It literally means put gas in your tank and then go. Do you need a little gas in your tank? It has been a hard couple of years and a lot of people are running on empty. But it's time to fill our tank and let's go. I know many of us have been worried about membership declining, and I have been there. January 2020, Wuhan, China, our district lost 1,000 members when COVID hit us. But in the next 3 months, we got 1,000 members back. That was because we rallied the troops. We all got together as officers. We made phone call after phone call after phone call. We visited club after club after club. For every single conversation we had, our members got to know they had the most important thing they needed. We had each other. Today, I just want to say, 加油! Sometimes, when you were beaten down, it's not easy to go jail. Just like I was there for Wuhan, I will be here for you. I will be here to fill your tank and want you to fill in the tanks of those members who left us. I want to connect us. I want to connect our 2024 vision of high touch with 1924 Dr. Smiley's original intention, which he said the personal touch is one of our distinguishing features. We are working together. 加油! We can do that. Vote to your next international director, Helen He, and learn to say, 加油! Thank you very much. Get back to his message.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you. Now, I would like to encourage you to make some notes because we're going to be doing a round robin evaluation of Helen, but we're going to take a break now. It's 7:30. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We will get together. Hey, Cheryl, we will get together at 7:35. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a good break. Cheryl, I'm glad you could join us. And we are going to move to the evaluation portion of the meeting. And that is going to be led by our general evaluator, Leah Amatangelo. Lee?
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster Kyle and fellow Laugh Lab Storymasters. I'm glad you joined us just now, Cheryl. Let's get into our evaluation session. Since we didn't have Mary speaking as speaker number 1, we're going to go on to evaluating speaker number 2. Speaker number 2 was Cynthia Sanderson, and she will be evaluated by Helen He. So Helen, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Lee. Cynthia, I really love your speech. It's very, I feel the warmth when you share the story with Miss Page. So I think the whole tonality is a good fit for the occasion you are give this speech at her 75 years birthday thing. So I think that's a great selection of your speech material. And secondly, I'm impressed of you use some metaphor. Like when you describe Mr. Page's showing her love and care to people around her, you use she's collecting families. It's my first time to see this word, this use of the word, and it's very vivid. Yeah, we all collecting book, collecting poster, but it's my first time to hear collect family members. I think that's very vivid, and that's also immediately showing us how loving she is by keep loving and taking care of people around her. And I think you kind of summarize her shining points, like love to family members, a lifelong learner, and he is always giving you her back, trying to help you. I'm just thinking if you could using some anecdotes, like what Kyle shared with us, the story between his dad and mom, and that will help us to see the details how Paige is a life learner and how his life learning attitudes impacted your attitude. So if you can share with us some stories, anecdotes under each label you give her, and that will help us to get a more vivid image and know how he changed your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen. And we're not doing any round robins, is that correct, Kyle? We just go straight into, or are we doing a round robin?
The round robin we are doing is
Just for
for
Helen.
Helen, and
Just
Karen
Helen.
will facilitate that.
Okay, we're not going to do it for each speaker. Let's move on to evaluating our second speaker, who was Joel Pushparaj, and evaluating him will be our very own Emmy. Take it away, Emmy.
Thank you, Lee. Joel, what a heartwarming speech. I wasn't really sure how it fit into our theme for today, but I really thought you did a nice job of talking to us about this wonderful new creature that you invited into your life. And the title was "The Best Things in Life Are Rescued." And I think you may not have meant it this way, but that little puppy that doggy, that you rescued actually rescued you. Yeah, very well done. I appreciated that little mix of bringing us into that at the very end. I would like to ask you, before we go any further though, I couldn't understand the dog's name.
Yeah, no, I got a comment. His name is Groot. That's what the shelter named him, Groot, like the tree.
Groot?
So, yeah,
Groot.
that's right. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, we just kept to it, and yeah.
Well, I liked how you made a turnaround in several different things. For instance, you talked about the kids being very persistent about wanting to have a dog in their life, and then they'd let it go, and then they'd come back and be persistent again. And your excuses to them were that, we don't have much time. Who's going to take care of this dog? Who's going to end up taking care of this dog? And yet, when it came time to get vetted, you very conveniently said that you would have the time to do this. So it made a big turnaround for you coming in there to actually rescue a dog and being told that you have to get vetted first. That's certainly a change from when we were young. You went to the dog pound and you got a dog, but no one asked you whether you were able to take care of it or not. You just took the dog. Anyway, I really appreciated that. And then when you actually had to take him for a walk and the exercise was beneficial. Yeah. And you, for one thing, one of the things that I kept waiting for was something to happen, because why did he keep getting taken back to the pound? He worked out just fine for you guys. So I never really understood why that happened. And maybe you don't know either. I don't know. But I just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it never quite did. But I enjoyed all the things that you took us through about, because this is what happens when you get a dog. You have to take him for walks. He has a separation anxiety. You have to work from home because somebody has to take care of the dog. Overall, very well told. I enjoyed the story. I think maybe there ought to be some kind of, shall we say, denouement or something, some kind of end ending that's a little bit bigger than what you've got here. So I think I would try to add something a little more that makes us feel like, oh, I'm so glad you got this dog, and it really has helped your entire family. And it's a very sweet story. I love the story, Joel. So thank you for sharing that with us. And it is kind of similar to raising kids. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Emmy. And here we are with our third speaker.
Lee,
Yes.
you asked me a question. I did not have a chance to reply to you. Can I reply to you now?
Yeah, go ahead.
I suggest we do a round robin.
That's what I was going to do. I wasn't sure if you assigned someone. Okay, let's do a round robin for ME since Cheryl was unable to be here. That's okay. We can be very flexible. Who wants to start off with a comment for ME? Go ahead. Ready?
It must have been perfect.
Oh, it was actually Emmy's hand that went up. Okay, let's.
Emmy has her hand up because she's the timer.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No,
Mary
no,
has her hand up.
No,
because she's the timer.
Emmy had her hand waving. I saw someone's hand wave. So let's. I got something here for Emmy. So what was your first line, Emmy? Do you remember? Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So I know we're in a meeting, but we're doing a social speech. Let's just go right into it as if we're at that event to have that experience. Would be one comment I have for you there. And let's see what else I have. Well, I like when you said Kyle leads from behind, because that actually makes Kyle a horse, because he likes to put the cart before the horse. So I thought that was kind of interesting the way you said that.
Doesn't that make me the cart?
No, you lead from behind. You're the horse. Okay, let's have some comments for ME. It was a very nice speech. It was basically a toast. You were kind of toasting or doing a praise type speech, whatever you want to call that. I thought that was pretty clever the way you did that. Go ahead, Mary.
This is a real hand raised now.
Yeah.
Right. So I also thought it was I was a very relatable tribute for Kyle. It's always one of those tricky things. Do you reveal who you are giving tribute to right up front, or do you try to make it a secret? And I think for the most part, if you're really going to give a tribute to someone, to saying it up front, to me, like I have to think, why does it need to be a surprise? Because you clearly want that person in the room. And if they're in the room, your people that you're talking to are starting to relate to who that person is and the impact that they've had on your life, whether they know them or not. So profound if they know them, but even touching if they don't. So I would get rid of a surprise. Try to, eliminate the element of surprise and go right to my good dear friend, Kyle Hall. And these are the reasons why.
I think, and normally I would do that. But in this particular instance, I wanted it to be a surprise.
Go ahead, Ken.
I was just going to offer a different opinion than yours, Mary, in saying that I liked the surprise. And here's why. I like when you're giving a tribute, because what happens is people really listen because they're trying to figure out who it is. Is this me? Is this so-and-so? Oh, I know. Oh, no, it could be. And I think people listen more when it's a surprise and they don't know. And then in the end, it's like, oh, and I didn't know they did that. And it just builds them in kind of a fun way. So for me, I enjoyed the surprise. And perhaps, I knew who it was right away, but that's because I know Kyle fairly well. And I knew that. And I think if you're giving recognition in a larger group, most of the time people will identify who it is fairly quickly, but not necessarily. So it was, but I just wanted to give that other opinion.
Thank you, Karen. And I kind of share that because I thought it was all about me until Emmy finally said, and this is Kyle Hall. Oh. All right. Anyway, I like both opinions. You can either do it up front or do the surprise. I like them both. All right, let's move on to kind of our keynote speaker today, which was Helen He. And let's get an evaluation for her. We're going to do a round robin again, because that's what we do here. So who wants to kick it off with a comment about Helen Her's long speech she gave us?
Well,
All
so
about marketing.
when I talked with Kyle up front, he had said that I could give
Oh, yes.
my own
Yeah,
evaluation and then facilitate a round robin.
that's correct.
I kind of prepared it that way. So if that's okay with you.
No, definitely. No, you're right. You're absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So while the rest of you were talking, I was having a little dialogue with Helen prior to this, after she had spoken. And I asked her if she was going to be giving this speech in Chinese or in English. Because I really wondered, since the audience was Chinese marketing business professionals, was she going to be giving it in English or Chinese? So to me, that was an interesting question. And what she said was that she will be giving it in Chinese. So what I say to that right up front, Helen, is wow. That is really impressive to be able to give a keynote in your second language when you're going to be giving it in your native language. So I find that extremely impressive, and I think that that will bode very well when you're doing the actual presentation, because you will have an additional level of impact because you've practiced it and understanding it in different languages. So thank you for that. That's pretty, I'm very blown away by that. So let me highlight a couple of things that I really liked about your presentation, and then I'll share a couple of things that were not quite as clear to me, and perhaps that's because it was English and not Chinese. So let me share that. First of all, I liked your format of having a story, and that story then built into tips that applied to the impact and what you wanted to have as your main point. And then I thought the video was also a nice summary of how you show your impact and why it can matter. So I thought all of that was a nice format. Now, having said that, a couple of things related to your format I think will make it even a little more impactful. First, your opening. Again, I was trying to put myself in the scene of it being speaking to marketing professionals, and I didn't quite understand the first opening part of your story in relation to that. Because I was thinking people trying to improve their marketing from your intro, but then you spoke about talking to an audience that was indifferent and having laptops and being frustrated, and I didn't quite make the connection there. But when you started talking about Leo, then it all started making sense and it started fitting in, and you saw, okay, now if I'm sitting there, I can relate to that story. I didn't quite relate to the first part as much. And it could be that I don't know their background or how they do marketing. So it might be there's a better connection than I heard. But I did like Leo. I liked your characterization and your building up there, and I saw you try to bring in a little humor with him looking good and then looking even better and that sort of thing. So I really wanted to. I don't know the humor in China, so you would be able to answer that better than me as to how that would be received, overall. But that's what I heard you doing. I loved your tips. I thought your tips were excellent, except that I couldn't quite hear the second one. And then the third one, I couldn't quite hear that you said brand until you'd said it several times. So there were a few times where and it could be that it was just the pronunciation in English, but when you said the real need, I didn't know what you had said. And when you said brand, I didn't know what it was. But then as you spoke, it became very clear, and your examples were outstanding. And I think that your quotes are good to have. It was a little disruptive because you couldn't quite get it and see it. And then when you read it, it was a little bit hard to flow. So just practicing that, you'll know that. And then I want to say, when you gave your Toastmaster speech, wow, that was powerful. It was emotional. It was passionate. I felt it. I wanted to be on your team. I wanted to get out there. So I don't know whether you throw that at the beginning or whether you close that up and make a wow response at the very end, but some way to tie that in, because that really showed the passion more than I heard it in the rest of the speech. Points excellent, flow excellent, working on building in the emotion or the connection that way would be awesome. So I really, this will be a very, very good keynote. So thank you for sharing it with us. And now I want to open up. I know we had like 10 minutes, so let me, what other comments would people have? Yes, Lee.
So you had the same opening that Emmy had, Ellen. And what I would like you to do, you're going to be speaking to this Chinese marketing business professionals. After you're introduced, I guess you're going to walk to the center stage. Just let the room go quiet, because those first words that come out of our mouth are so powerful. So instead of acknowledging whoever the MC is, do that a little bit later, like we see in a lot of the World Championship speeches. Just go right into your first point so you suck the audience in. So I would say that. And at one point, you were talking about Leo, you said, Leo said, I don't know, he was thinking. And the word was there. But what you can change that with, because we are Toastmasters and we always listen for that word, just say, And that also connotes thinking, but the odd counter doesn't get to tick you off. Okay, let's see. I did catch some ums in your speech, Ellen. I'm just going to give them to you because you're going to be going in front of an audience. You had 6, which for a long speech isn't too bad, but I know you can do better. When you showed us that video, you were spot on. It was just a fluid, powerful, like Karen said, a very, very powerful. And I like your 3 tips, and you said them. And like Karen, I didn't quite hear the second and third ones as well, but when you do it in Chinese, maybe they will. I was also going to make a comment about, and Karen did, your quotes in your video. You had to fumble a little bit to get those going, get those quotes memorized, or even have them on a piece of paper for you. And I was going to suggest with the video, instead of showing it, just do it for a slide. But because you do it in English and it had the Chinese subtitles, I think that was powerful to let them see you in action there. But I agree, it was very good, very powerful speech, and I love the ending. Turn it back to you, Karen.
Kyle.
So I want to magnify something that Lee just said. If you're going to launch into your story right away, start with, I was frustrated, and let us know you were frustrated. And then tell us why you were frustrated, that you were doing this class and people are on their laptops and on their phone and not paying attention and all that. Just, start out with emotion right from the start, because that grabs us. The other thing that that Lee didn't explicitly say is one of the things I teach people when I'm talking to them competing. Go out, stand in front of the audience, don't say a word, and gather them in. Look around and make eye contact. Now, if it's 20, 30 people, you can make eye contact with almost everybody. If it's 200, you can't. But just make eye contact with people for 4 or 5 seconds without saying a word. It's hard. We don't like that silence. I call that the eye pause. And what happens is when you don't start speaking right away, you get everyone's attention. They're wondering what's going on. And they start looking at you. And then you start out with emotion. I was frustrated. You'll suck them right in. The only other suggestion I'm going to make, because we're short on time, is to make the humorous bits, like the comments about Leo, those were asides. You need to pause slightly longer before you say them, and you need to change your tone of voice when you say them. He was, Leo was, 1.2, meters tall, and really handsome. That was the first smile I've seen tonight, Leo. It made him look even better. So you need to change your posture, change your voice, and have that pause between them, and it'll create more laughter.
Perfect. Thank you, Kyle. I have one last comment that I wanted to make, but anybody else have any feedback they want to make sure they get, that Helen gets. Feel free to put in the chat as well, so that she can have that information, especially since this is a speech she'll be doing live. So,
With Emmy, Karen. Emmy has a comment.
oh, Emmy, go ahead.
Just real quickly, when you said the difference between the first meeting and the meeting in the spa, you said one of them was mandatory and the other one happened naturally. I would have given that just a little bit more space because it's an important part of it. And I had to really stop and think as you were doing that. You're going on, and I'm still back here with, what's the difference? Yeah, so give it a little bit more space and a little bit more emphasis.
Sometimes if a point is really important, repeat it.
Thank you. And thank you all for your comments for Helen. I know that she always takes those to heart and tries to incorporate them. So one last comment I wanted to make, Helen, related to some of the other comments, was with the opening. With a keynote, one of the things that I have found very helpful is if you can arrive wherever or however you're doing it early, whether it's virtually or whether it's in person, and just listen. Listen to the people that are going to be in your audience, hear what they're talking about, hear what they're saying, because usually people are talking about emotion, feeling, a frustration. They're stuck in traffic, or this happened, or this happened, and use that to your advantage. So when you go out on that stage, you've just heard 10 people talk about traffic. So you open up with, I was stuck in this traffic for so long, and you've got them. You've got everybody. So if you can take advantage of that audience in advance, whether it's virtually or just kind of pull that into your talk, and they're like, wow, she's talking to me, and it can really help. So thanks again for your speech. I loved it, and I will turn it back to our general evaluator, Lee.
All right, thank you, Karen. Thank you, all evaluators and all the round robin participants. I'm going to do a listening question right now. How tall was that tall person in Helen Hur's speech? Do you remember what she said?
1.8.
1.8 meters. That's a whopping 5'9" here in America. But in China, that's real tall. What I want to say today is our Toastmaster did an exceptional job today. I love the way he started out with kind of setting up the theme of social speeches, and he talked about how he had to do the eulogy of his mother. And he sets that all up beautifully. And all throughout the meeting, as he went to introduce someone new, he went back to that story and gave us background information on mom and dad, and then what he had to do and with his mom, his relationship with his mom. I thought that was really well done to put a theme and a thread all the way through the meeting. And I think we're never going to forget his dad's proposal to mom on the first date of whether she wanted to go to that theater or not. That was kind of cool. And it was very touching, the whole story about the stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And then we learned later that Kyle loves his mom, but didn't always like her. They had some tension. That also builds things up about the whole eulogy. Very, very good. Very good. I loved Cynthia's speech about Paige. 60 plus people showed up to her birthday party. Says a lot about who Paige was. And I like the fact that Paige made people part of her family, part of her tribe. That was a cool kind of idiosyncrasy we could learn about Paige, and it kind of brought her into focus for us. Then we had Joel's speech about the pet, and kind of like Emmy made the comment, how did this tie into our speech? It didn't really matter. It was about a pet. But what I want to do for you, Joel, and I'm going to say this to all of us in the meeting today, I think we kind of backslid a little bit. We're an advanced club about storytelling and humor, and there were a lot of verbal pauses all the way through our meeting. Joel, you had 13 ums. I liked the phrase you said. He taught his daughter that animals are different from toys. I think we all got into that when we have kids and we have pets, and we realize, hey, we got to teach our kids about taking a pet. It's very different from a toy, right? It's 24/7. It's not something you throw under the bed and you don't have to worry about it until you find it again. You had 9 you knows, 2 likes, 1 I think, the other thing, good things, the word thing. This is my pet peeve in Toastmasters. That is a very global type of word. You can always change thing to a very specific. And at one point, one of our evaluators said, hey, I want to talk about 3 things that you did well. What I really wanted the evaluator to say was, I want to talk about 3 points that you did really well. You can always change that word thing to a very specific noun. And I think it really lets the audience understand what you're saying. But on that, thank you for the story, Joel. And I give you the metrics just so you know next time to be cognizant about them. Okay, let's see, what do we have here else as well? Other than that, I think we had a good flow to the meeting. We started pretty much right on time. We hit our break right on time, and we're going to end on time. So in that, I think it was an overall great meeting. I think we learned a lot about doing these social speeches. I like that we got to see a very long keynote type social speech from Helen. That was really cool as well. So let's keep it up. But next time, let's think. Let's also be a listener when we speak, and listen for those verbal pauses, and listen for those non-specific words, and listen to our repeated words, because we had a lot of that tonight. I'll turn it back to our Toastmaster Kyle.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. And thank you for that great general evalu thing.
Thing.
I want to say, when I stood up to deliver my mother's eulogy, I started out by telling everybody, I said, the first thing I want you to know is that my brother and I grew up bilingual. We grew up speaking English and sarcasm. And I told people, if you didn't speak sarcasm in the house, you couldn't communicate. And that got a laugh, and people aren't used to having a laugh in a eulogy. But one of the reasons I did it was I was going to talk about my mother's sense of humor and about the things that made her laugh. And she did have a slightly twisted, even sometimes dark sense of humor, which made her fit with my brother and I just fine, or maybe we fit with her. But it's one of the things that, even when you're preparing to give the talk of a lifetime, eulogy, wedding toast, tribute, think about how you can insert some humor in there, how you can bring some levity and lightness to it. It'll engage the audience more and make the event more memorable and make it more powerful for the people who are there. So that's 3 pieces of advice I've given you tonight about doing that. I hadn't planned the third one, and I'm going to hand control back to our president and fearless leader.